Peter Kadges of the Boston Phoenix, a man who did not honeymoon on his own private island, unlike the Prince and the Duchess or whatever the hell she is. Cosmo Macero of Vanille Associates, who can't get enough of the Arnold Schwarzenegger pun headlines this morning.
Terminated. It's good. It's good. He's been waiting his whole career for that divorce.
He has?
We have. I don't know. Somebody has.
Can we call him a political gold digger? Like he got all he could out of that marriage, and now that he's out of politics, he's done with it?
You're assuming he pulled the plug.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know what happened there. Cosmo Macero, Vanille Associates. By the way, speaking of politics, boys, let's get started. Another candidate on the Democratic side getting into the Scott Brown race. Seti Warren, the mayor of Newton, has announced, and much like Alan Casey, who announced the day before, he immediately tells us that Scott Brown is a lockstep Republican, Peter Kadges. Is this line of attack going to work in running against Scott Brown?
I don't think so. You have to understand that in Massachusetts, by Republican standards, by national standards, Scott Brown is maybe not a communist, but a socialist. The definition of independent may not be what it used to be, but he's cast some major votes with the Democrats, and I think...
Just ask Barney Frank in that financial bill, of course.
And I think it's going to be hard to make that stick, even in a year with Obama at the top of the ticket.
What's the likelihood Scott Brown's vulnerable in 2012, Cosmo?
I think he's very, very hard to beat by Seti Warren, by Steve Lynch, or whoever, Alan Casey. He's very tough to beat. I don't know that's really the point. In this case, Seti Warren is a very promising young Democrat, someone who probably has a real future in a variety of options. And this is probably about setting himself up for a future run, or at least that'll be the impact or the effect afterwards, because it's always a good thing to get your feet wet in a race like this.
Isn't the key in 2012, Peter, we're going to find out whether the Democratic machine in Massachusetts is as big as it ever has been, and Scott Brown is a litmus. If they can take him out, we're right back to the same old Massachusetts, right? So aren't they going to go all in here?
Oh, I think the Republican Party will be pouring money in here. The Democrats, too, are going to go all out. But listen, if Scott Brown's memoir, which is not a bad book, nothing about politics,
right,
but if it is any indication, he's an incredibly likable guy. He's got a good story.
And he's got $8 million.
Scott Brown is just going to be very, very hard to beat. He also has the power of incumbency.
Exactly.
And I think in a state where there essentially is no Republican Party,
but on the other hand,
what passes for it is going to be 100% behind Scott Brown.
I think if you don't see the establishment-like candidates like Capuano and Steve Lynch getting into this thing,
I don't know why Lynch wouldn't.
That tells you a lot about what the establishment really thinks about the winnability of the race.
Extra question, though, Cosmo. If the top of the ticket is Obama versus Romney, what's the point how many points is that going to hurt Brown in Massachusetts?
I think it's meaningful. I think Obama will obviously run very strong
and Romney
nationwide and certainly in Massachusetts. So I think that's certainly gets factored into this for whoever's running.
Last question, actually. Let's get back to Seti for a minute. You're a political guy. Cosmo, you're a consultant now, and you obviously like to help these guys out. Give me a campaign slogan for Seti Warren.
How about Ready, Steady, Go? What?
Perhaps I should not have gone there.
Ready, Steady, Go.
I won't be able to top that.
There you go.
Okay, good work, Cosmo. Sit by that phone, wait for that call from Seti. Speaking of Scott Brown, this is apropos of nothing.
You can use that one.
Have you guys seen the cover of Men's Health of this news story? Representative Aaron Schock, I think.
Men's Health, my favorite magazine.
All of ours. I mean, the heavy hitters, of course. Let's start with you, Cosmo. You're trimmed down, obviously. I'm awaiting the shirtless photos.
The gun show?
You were not invited to the gun show. You don't have tickets. Ever a good idea for a congressman to pose shirtless?
I don't think so. It's just not very congressional. Now, the guy's young. He's 29. He has tremendous abs, which are on display in Men's Health. And I'll cut him a little slack because it's Men's Health, not, Playgirl or something like that.
Cosmo.
Or Cosmo. Excuse me. But no, I don't think it's really congressional to bare your midsection on the cover of
The
magazine.
last congressman we saw with his shirt off was trolling on Facebook for women while married, Peter. I mean, what good comes from this for the guy?
It's Men's Health. Myself, listen, it's hard to put jealousy aside on this one. the picture is about as dignified as that can be. He's a good-looking guy. He's got, as Cosmo said,
it's good for a
great
social
abs.
life. But if you're having trouble getting dates, I mean, it's good for a social life, I guess.
It's a ripple. I think you have to go by the any publicity is good publicity.
I think this sets
Nice
itself
pun.
up for
It's a ripple.
Remember that picture with this guy? I just don't know why he did it. I think it was unnecessary. And is this helping spread the word of health, Cosmo?
I suppose so. He is kind of setting. He's kind of setting himself up.
Is.
There's a shoe out there waiting to drop on the guy now. You know.
That's
In other words, you say, let's hope he's clean.
He better be. Finally, let's talk about the building behind us, because tomorrow we got a potential constitutional convention going on here. Why? Because apparently the Patrick administration and the legislature wants to do away with the governor's council. They actually want to change the Constitution to do away with the council that officially approves judges. Your take on this, Cosmo?
My take is, if we look around, and I know that throughout the political establishment there are better public officials than others, and some hacks and not, but is there any kind of real crisis in the quality of judges we're getting in Massachusetts? I don't think so. So if there's not, maybe we don't like the process, maybe we don't like the rubber stamp, but we seem to be getting good judges appointed in the Commonwealth. What's the problem?
My take, Peter, is I love that Tim Murray is leading the charge in saying that the governor's council is irrelevant. Isn't he the lieutenant governor? I mean, come on.
Irrelevancy range.
Thank
I mean, you know, I have mixed feelings about this, very mixed. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if people said, well, here's the system that we would put in place to name judges. Let me just play devil's advocate for a second.
Quickly.
Anytime there's a change in politics lately, it's a change for the worse. That's the argument for keeping the Governor's Council, which is a pretty pathetic body, I'd say. One way of looking at it would be to say that people should elect better candidates. That's probably not going to happen, but do we really want the legislature, that gang of pirates, involved in the judicial process?
And anytime the legislature tells us this will save us money, what does that tell you, Cosmo?
It costs us more.
It's going to cost us. Peter Cashes of Phoenix, Cosmo Massaro of O'Neill & Associates, the heavy hitters.